Imagine yourself settling into a comfortable position, letting your breath ease and allowing the world around you to quiet just a little more. Tonight, we are traveling far back in time beyond the towering pyramids you already know, beyond the familiar images of pharaohs and golden crowns. We're going deeper into the gentle rhythm of everyday life along the Nile, where thousands of ordinary people woke each morning to a rising sun that warmed the sands, the reeds, and the fields that sustained an entire civilization. This is life in ancient Egypt, beyond the pyramids and into the sand. Our journey will unfold softly, in 4 calm and reflective segments. We begin not in the throne room, but in the fields. Not with kings, but with the farmers whose hands shaped Egypt's fate each season. So allow your mind to drift, and imagine the faint rustle of palm leaves, the distant call of waterbirds, and the slow, steady breathing of a river older than memory. Picture the pale light of dawn slipping across the horizon, its warm glow touching the edge of your mud brick home. The air is already thick with the warmth of late summer, but still cool enough to offer a moment of peace before the day fully awakens. You rise slowly, stretching limbs accustomed to steady labor. The faint hum of insects hovers nearby, a constant companion in this season of swelling waters. The Nile has begun its annual flood happy's gift, as the priests would say. The river rises quietly, steadily, spreading its dark, nutrient-rich silt across the fields. You will not plant yet. For now, your work revolves around preparation, observation, and the careful balancing act of tending to household needs while the world outside rearranges itself under the flood's gentle insistence. Your home is simple walls shaped from sun-dried mud brick, smooth and cool to the touch. Inside, the scent of last night's bread lingers faintly, along with the earthy aroma of packed clay floors. Your family stirs as you move softly, your partner brushing dust from a reed mat. A child rubbing their eyes, still captured by sleep's embrace. You step outside, and the heat greets you with familiarity. It is not sharp, not yet oppressive, more like a warm hand resting on your shoulders. Beyond the cluster of houses, you see neighbors emerging with slow, practiced motions, men adjusting simple linen kilts, women balancing water vessels at their hips, older relatives finding a shaded seat near doorways to begin their daily weaving or mending. A few mosquitoes dance lazily in the humid air near the river's edge. They never vanish in this season. You've grown used to brushing them aside with a gentle wave of your hand, moving deliberately so as not to disturb your calm. This morning's tasks begin with checking the embankments. The local overseer appointed by a noble household expects every farmer to maintain the small canals and barriers that guide the floodwaters. It's a communal effort, a requirement woven into the rhythm of life. Grain quotas must be met later in the year, and the state relies on these waters being controlled, directed, and harnessed. As you walk toward the fields, your feet lightly kicking warm dust, you pass the stone shrine dedicated to a protective deity. A small offering sits at its base, perhaps a few dried figs, a pinch of grain, or a fragment of incense. You pause briefly. It isn't required, but it's part of the gentle pulse of your life. Acknowledging forces larger than yourself, aligning your day with their watchful presence. At the riverbank, the world becomes softer, more fluid. The smell of damp earth rises, the kind that hints at future abundance. Small eddies swirl near the reeds, carrying bits of straw and drifting petals. Fishermen stand knee-deep in the shallows, their nets trailing like soft curtains in the water. They speak quietly, their voices blending with the river's low murmur. You take a long breath. The floodwaters have reached a promising height this year, high enough to nourish the fields, but not so high as to threaten the edges of the village. You gently press the embankment with your heel, testing its firmness. It holds. The work from the previous day remains intact. As the sun climbs higher, you turn back toward home, where the day's other duties await. Your partner has begun grinding grain with the familiar rhythmic motion of a stone mortar. You join them, helping shape dough for simple flatbreads. The cool surface of the grinding stone feels grounding beneath your palms. Outside, a neighbor calls out, asking if you will help repair a section of shared irrigation channel later in the afternoon. You nod, knowing these small exchanges keep the village functioning smoothly. Inside your home, a jug of beer, mild and thick, a staple of daily life, waits near the shaded corner. You take a small drink. It's refreshing, slightly sour, and made from the grains you harvested months ago. Each sip connects you to the cycles that govern everything: flood, planting, harvest, rest, and flood again. As midday arrives, the heat becomes heavier, pressing gently against your skin. Most villagers retreat indoors or seek shade beneath simple awnings. The air buzzes softly with insects, their sound almost hypnotic. You rest briefly, lying on a reed mat, listening to the distant laughter of children splashing in a shallow pool near the river's edge. They have been warned to stay away from deeper waters, but this small patch is safe enough. When the sun begins its slow descent, you join your neighbors at the irrigation channels. Together, you reinforce the banks with packed earth, smoothing out any cracks, ensuring the water will flow evenly once planting season begins. It's tedious work, but the steady repetition is oddly calming. The mud is cool between your fingers. The sun's rays soften as evening approaches. As the sky deepens into shades of amber and rose, you walk home with dust clinging lightly to your legs. A flock of ibis drifts overhead, their silhouettes serene against the fading light. Tonight, after supper, you will offer a small prayer to the household gods, a request for health, stability, and a generous harvest in the months to come. Your day ends quietly. You lie down on your mat, feeling the soft breeze drift through the doorway. Outside, the Nile continues to rise, unhurried and eternal. The world settles into a peaceful silence, broken only by the distant croak of frogs near the water's edge. And with that, another day of your life as a Nile farmer draws to a gentle close, shaped by water, sun, labor, and the slow, reliable rhythm of a civilization built on patience. Let your breath ease again, slowly, gently, as we step away from the quiet banks of the Nile and into the shifting corridors of royal power. Imagine yourself walking through a palace courtyard in the soft morning light. The stones beneath your feet are warm, the air still carrying the coolness of dawn. Servants move quietly, their footsteps almost soundless as they sweep away drifting sand. In this tranquil setting, a young prince grows observant, contemplative, and destined to reshape an entire kingdom. His name is Amenhotep, though history would come to remember him by another, Akhenaten. He was not born into obscurity. He entered a world of wealth, ritual, and divine expectation. As a royal child, he saw the great temples of Ammon towering above the city of Thebes. Their priests, powerful and deeply entrenched in every aspect of state life, oversaw ceremonies that had persisted for centuries. The air within these temples was thick with incense, chanting, and the quiet authority of tradition. But the young prince was different. From early on, he seemed more introspective than his peers, more absorbed by the long, unbroken path of the sun across the sky. While others focused on palace politics, he was drawn to the light itself, its warmth, its clarity, its steady return each morning. When he ascended the throne, he carried this quiet obsession with him. At first, the transition appeared seamless. A new pharaoh taking his rightful place, undertaking the expected rituals, honoring the gods as generations before him had done. But within the palace, whispers soon circulated. The young king was withdrawing from the traditional temples. He was commissioning hymns, restructuring offerings, redirecting attention toward a single divine presence, the Aten, the disk of the sun. Imagine for a moment the stillness of the desert at sunrise. The soft arc of the sun cresting the horizon, sending strands of golden light across the land. Akhenaten believed that this radiant force, this life-giving light, was the purest form of divinity, something universal, unbounded by temple walls. To him, the Aten was not one god among many, but the singular heartbeat of existence. This belief led him to take an extraordinary step. He ordered the construction of a new city, Akhetaten, modern-day Amarnafar, from the entrenched power of the old priesthood. Picture its beginnings. Long lines of workers shaping stone in the gentle morning haze. Architects laying out wide avenues that would catch the sun directly, open-air temples without roofs, allowing light to fall freely upon the altars. The city grew quickly, guided by the pharaoh's vision. Reliefs carved into palace walls depict Akhenaten and his queen, Nefertiti, bathed in beams of sunlight that stretched down like gentle hands. The images feel different from earlier Egyptian art. Softer, more intimate. The royal family shone together, interacting, sharing quiet moments beneath the Aten's rays. Yet even as this new form of worship flourished, tension simmered beneath the surface. The old temples of Amun stood silent. Their treasury, once overflowing, was diverted toward the new city. Priests who had wielded influence for generations watched their authority evaporate. Workers and nobles alike were relocated to Akhetaten, often leaving behind ancestral homes. And beyond the city's borders, Egypt's empire, once carefully maintained under previous rulers, began to fray. Imagine Akhenaten late at night, standing on a balcony overlooking the desert. The sand cooling beneath the moonlight, the silence stretching endlessly. Perhaps he believed deeply in the purity of his reforms, convinced that returning devotion to a single, universal force would bring harmony. Perhaps he never fully sensed the weight of what was slipping away. Distant territories unrestful, foreign alliances weakening, the army under strain. For ordinary Egyptians, life during this time was a mixture of stability and quiet confusion. Open-air temples meant worship felt different, less mysterious, more exposed to the elements. Festivals honoring the old gods faded. New rituals arose, their pace slower, their tone gentler. Imagine standing among a crowd gathered in Akhetaten, the sunlight warm on your face as priests chant hymns to the Aten, their voices drifting upward into open sky rather than echoing beneath stone ceilings. But no rain lasts forever. When Akhenaten's health declined, uncertainties grew. The royal succession became tangled in tragedy, princes lost at young ages, advisors rising and falling in quick succession, and whispers of unrest growing louder. The brilliant city, once filled with sunlit optimism, began to feel fragile, like a delicate reed bending in the wind. And then, one day, the sunlight over Akhetaten shone down over a pharaoh who had passed from this world. His successors acted swiftly. The old temples reopened, offerings resumed. Akhetaten, the radiant city he had built with such devotion, was abandoned almost as quickly as it had risen. Stones were dismantled, names were erased. Reliefs depicting the Aten were hidden beneath new carvings. The city's wide streets soon filled with drifting sand, slowly reclaimed by the desert's calm persistence. Akhenaten, once the center of a bold spiritual experiment, was declared a heretic by those who followed. Yet if you imagine him now, walking quietly along the dunes at sunset, his face turned toward the descending light, perhaps he would not feel defeated. Perhaps for him, the Aten's glow was worth every sacrifice. The desert is silent about such things. It keeps its secrets gently. And now, with the sun setting softly behind Akhetaten's forgotten walls, we transition to a place where secrets linger still hidden in stone, in dust, and in the mysteries of a tomb that should not have existed. Allow your breathing to settle again, a long exhale, and a quiet return to the gentle rhythm of history. Now, imagine yourself walking through the Valley of the Kings, not as a hurried tourist, but as a calm observer in the cool stillness of early morning. The sky above is a pale wash of lavender, the sun just beginning to tease the tops of the rugged cliffs. The sand is cool beneath your feet, and the wind carries only the softest whisper like the sigh of the desert itself. Here, in this secluded valley, kings once believed they could secure eternal peace. But not every tomb followed the rules. Picture a sealed doorway, forgotten for centuries, covered by drifting sand and stones that shielded it from the eyes of the living. Inside this modest tomb, smaller than the grand chambers of more celebrated pharaohs, lay a collection of objects that didn't quite belong together. Offerings meant for one person, inscribed items belonging to another, remnants that felt both familiar and strangely displaced. When early excavators opened the entrance, warm desert air flowed into a space untouched since antiquity. Dust drifted up, swirling slowly in the light of their lanterns. The walls revealed no elaborate paintings, no sweeping texts. Just quiet stone and a few traces of plaster flaking softly with age. Inside the burial chamber lay a deteriorated coffin, its golden face deliberately removed, leaving only a smooth surface where the likeness of the interred should have been. It was a gentle erasure, a symbolic gesture, removing identity without disturbing the peace of the figure within. Nearby rested items bearing names associated not with one ruler, but with several. Objects tied to Queen Tai, mother of Akhenaten. Other fragments referencing Amenhotep III. And cartouches connected to the Aten cult of the Amarna period. It was as if the tomb had been assembled in haste, with objects swept from one place to another, placed together in this quiet hollow carved into the valley floor. The most intriguing presence, however, was the mummy. Archaeologists found the remains in a fragile state, time having thinned the bones and weakened the wrappings. They handled the figure with care, recognizing that every movement, could cause delicate fragments to crumble away. Even in this vulnerability, the mummy carried a story etched into its very form. But whose story? At first, some believed the remains belonged to a woman. Later examinations suggested a young man, likely in his 20s or early 30s at the time of death. This alone narrowed the field to a small circle of royal individuals from the Amarna era. Was it Smenkhar, the elusive ruler who may have briefly shared the throne with Akhenaten? Was it Akhenaten himself, hastily reburied in the Valley of the Kings after his controversial legacy was overturned? Or was it another royal figure whose name time has hidden? Each theory rose softly, like ripples in still water. Smenkhar, whose life flickered briefly in the historical record. Akhenaten, whose burial remains a matter of speculation. Or perhaps another prince, caught in the currents of political change during the empire's most unstable chapter. DNA analyses performed many decades later would suggest that the mummy is closely related to Tutankhamun, likely his father. This points gently toward Akhenaten, though even here the sands of uncertainty shift. Egyptology rarely offers perfect clarity, especially when ancient politics and modern interpretation intertwine. As you stand in the tomb in your imagination, let yourself feel the quiet weight of this ambiguity. The stone around you is cool, absorbing sound. The air hangs heavy with the scent of centuries, dry, dusty, and still. To one side, an offering jar rests where it was placed long ago. Its smooth surface carries faint traces of painted symbols. To another, a wooden shrine collapsing softly under the pressure of time bears the image of Queen Tai. Her serene face watches over the space, a reminder that even in confusion, there is connection. And the mummy lies in the center of it all, a silent axis around which questions continue to revolve. Imagine the ancient workers who prepared this tomb. Perhaps they worked quickly, under orders to move a body from one place to another before political winds shifted again. Perhaps they did so at night, the desert cool against their skin, whispering hurried instructions to one another as they placed objects without their usual care, creating a burial that felt improvised, unsettled, and then, for over 3,000 years, nothing. The tomb remained sealed. Its occupant slept through dynasties rising and falling, through invasions, through the collapse and rebirth of nations. Time passed softly here, untouched. Some stories are meant to stay half-shadowed, offering only enough detail to spark quiet curiosity. A tomb without full identity, a burial that breaks the rules. A life, or perhaps several, bound together in a chamber carved into the earth. You take one last look around this silent place. The flicker of torchlight fades. The stone walls, cool and unadorned, seem to exhale as you step back toward the entrance. Above, the sky brightens. Wind sweeps gently across the cliffs, carrying with it grains of fine sand that drift and fall like soft, ancient snow. If this journey into the mysteries of the past resonated with you, consider subscribing for more stories from the quiet corners of history. Now moving on to the final part. Before we step into the palace, take a slow breath, and imagine the sands settling around you, the desert's vast silence giving way to the soft murmur of a royal household waking up. The world inside an Egyptian palace was shaped not by the harsh rhythms of fieldwork or the shifting politics of temples, but by a quieter, more deliberate choreography. A realm where every step, every gesture, and every moment flowed like water through carefully carved channels. We begin at dawn. Picture the palace walls rising from the landscape, their surfaces kissed by the first warm rays of the sun. The mud brick exterior is smooth and pale, decorated with faint traces of painted scenes, flowers, birds, and symbols of rebirth. Palm trees sway gently in the morning breeze, casting long, elegant shadows across courtyards paved with cool stone. Inside, the palace stirs gradually. Servants move silently through the corridors, their linen garments whispering softly as they walk. Each person knows their place in the delicate structure of palace life. Some carry small oil lamps, their flames flickering gently. Others bring baskets of fresh lotus flowers, their subtle fragrance meant to purify the air before members of the royal family appear. You join them in your imagination, walking slowly, observing the rhythm of their tasks. In a quiet room, lit only by filtered sunlight, a royal attendant polishes alabaster vessels with smooth, deliberate motions. The translucent stone glows softly beneath their hands. Another servant prepares small bowls of scented unguents, fragrant oils infused with cedar, myrrh, or lotus resin, carefully blended to honor the gods and soothe the royal skin. The work is unhurried, precise, almost meditative. Farther inside the palace, a private suite begins to awaken. Here, the atmosphere changes. The air is cooler, shaded by high walls and woven reed screens. Fine linen curtains sway gently, responding to the faintest drift of air. The furniture is simple in shape yet carefully crafted, the legs of chairs carved like lion paws, the surfaces polished to a gentle sheen. A royal figure rises, greeted by attendants who move with soft, practiced coordination. They adjust jewelry, broad collars of faience and gold, earrings shaped like delicate drops of sunlight. They drape fresh linen garments, smooth and cool against the skin. Every movement is designed to be unobtrusive, to maintain an atmosphere of calm respect. Breakfast is a quiet affair: soft bread, fresh fruit, and cool water poured from tall ceramic jars. Even these simple foods are served with ceremony, arranged carefully on low tables decorated with painted lotuses. Outside the private chambers stretches a world of order and refinement. Walk with me into the gardens. The palace gardens are lush compared to the desert beyond the walls. Water channels, fed from the Nile, weave through well-kept plots. Shade trees arch over stone pathways. Blossoms tremble gently in the morning breeze. At the center lies a large pool lined with blue tiles, its surface reflecting the sky in a muted shimmer. Around the garden, servants tend to date palms, prune fig trees, or sweep fallen petals from the paths. Their movements blend seamlessly into the hushed atmosphere, creating a kind of tranquil harmony. Nearby, scribes sit beneath a shaded awning, their reed pens poised above fresh papyrus. They document everything: deliveries of grain and oil, incoming gifts, outgoing messages, schedules for religious offerings. The scratching of pen on papyrus creates a soft, steady rhythm, one of the quiet background sounds of palace life. And then, there are the rituals. Within the palace lies a sacred space reserved for worship, a small shrine where statues of deities rest in the dimness. The air is thick with the scent of cool stone and faint traces of incense burned earlier in the day. A priest enters, robes trailing lightly behind him. He moves with measured grace, offering prayers with a low, soothing voice. Royal participation in daily rituals was expected, but not overwhelming. Moments of devotion were woven gently into the structure of the day. A prayer spoken during sunrise, a quiet offering placed at a shrine. A symbolic gesture of respect toward the divine order of the world. These rituals were not rushed. They were contemplative, almost meditative acts meant to align the palace with the harmony of the cosmos. As the day progresses, the palace becomes livelier, though never chaotic. Messengers arrive from distant territories, their sandals coated in desert dust. They bow, speak respectfully, and deliver news in low tones. Musicians practice in shaded courtyards, plucking softly at harps or flutes, their melodies gentle and fluid. Artisans paint everyday objects: boxes, jars, small statues with scenes of birds, lotus blooms, or offerings to the gods. In a spacious hall, nobles gather for a midday meal. The room is cool, thanks to high ceilings and strategically placed windows that let crosswinds flow through. Servants offer dishes made from vegetables, honey-sweetened pastries, and small portions of roasted meat. Wine diluted with water is poured into elegant cups. Laughter is quiet, conversations restrained, as decorum shapes the sound of every exchange. Even feasts, which could be lively, maintained a sense of careful organization. Musicians played softly in the background, perfumed cones melted slowly atop guests' heads, releasing fragrance over time, and dancers moved with slow, deliberate motions designed to please, not overwhelm. Luxury in ancient Egypt was not merely excess, it was control, balance, and grace. As evening descends, the palace shifts once more. The sun lowers behind distant dunes, filling the halls with warm golden light. Servants light oil lamps one by one, their flames reflecting in polished surfaces. Shadows lengthen across the walls, softening the painted scenes of gods, lotus ponds, and celestial boats. The royal family retires gradually. Children are guided back to their rooms. Jewelry is carefully removed and stored. Priests close the shrine for the night. In the quiet moments before sleep, the palace becomes almost completely still. You can imagine walking through its corridors now, each footstep cushioned by woven mats. Each turn revealing a still room, a darkened alcove, or a courtyard bathed in the moon's pale glow. The air is calm. The world beyond the walls grows dark and silent. And inside, life settles into a peaceful hush, a gentle reminder that even those surrounded by luxury sought the same simple rest as farmers along the Nile. Take a slow breath, and let the sands of ancient Egypt settle gently in your mind. We have wandered today through fields softened by the rising Nile, through a sunlit city built on devotion and ambition, through a quiet tomb holding secrets, and through the tranquil corridors of a royal palace, where life unfolded like a carefully tended garden. As you rest now, consider the rhythm that connected all these worlds. For the farmer kneeling beside the riverbank, life depended on cycles: flood, sowing, harvest, rest. For Akhenaten, the sun's daily journey across the sky shaped an entire philosophy. And within the palace, every task polishing a vessel, offering a prayer, tending a garden unfolded in calm, deliberate patterns. Across all of these lives, separated by status yet united by the same ancient landscape, there was a shared understanding that existence moves gently in cycles and breath in the steady rising and falling of the river that shaped their world. Tonight, as you lie in a far more comfortable place than any home in the ancient world could offer, let those slow rhythms guide you into rest. The Nile continues to flow in memory. The sun continues to rise in stories. And the quiet steps of people long gone still echo softly across time, offering their calm to you now. Allow yourself to drift, to let the day fall away and to slip gently into sleep, carried on the timeless currents of history. For more such content, do like and subscribe. Good night.